Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you're listening from. It's me, Lisa, and this is Untitled, the podcast without a name. So, if my voice sounds a little bit off today, I'm fighting a little cold. If I'm sneezing here and there, I cannot control it. So, I just wanted to let you know up front if it happens, it happens, and I'm sorry about that. And before we really get into it, I want to say something clearly. Today's episode might feel uncomfortable for some people and maybe a little bit challenging because I'm asking you to be honest with yourself instead of looking for validation, confirmation, or reinsurance. This episode is about starting where you are or being where you are and not where you think you should be. Sometimes the hardest part isn't starting, and it isn't staying consistent either. Sometimes the hardest part is knowing what to do in a specific moment or a specific situation. That means knowing what kind of discipline you actually need right now in the situation you're in. Because not every situation requires the same response, right? Starting where you are doesn't mean you never challenge yourself. And it also doesn't mean you push every time something feels hard or uncomfortable. And I believe this is where a lot of people get confused. And honestly, this is where I got confused. I had to learn this the hard way through tough conversations, through pain, through injury, through doing too much, and sometimes doing the completely wrong thing for far too long. Because respecting your current capacity and pushing for progress, they actually go hand in hand. We need both. There are moments where respecting your limits is exactly what keeps you consistent, what keeps you good, what keeps you safe, what keeps you healthy, injury free. Moments where the most disciplined thing you can do is actually repeat something simple, or maybe adjust, or maybe take a few steps back, or maybe rest. Not more stress, not more workload, and not more pressure. And that's not weakness, that's awareness. And here is an honest question for you. Are you resting because your body truly needs it? Or because resting feels easier than changing something or challenging yourself or stepping out of your comfort zone or facing resistance? That's the difference between recovery and staying comfortable because growth feels hard. And then there are other moments where staying with what feels comfortable is exactly what's holding you back. The moments where the most disciplined thing you can do is push a little bit harder, a little bit harder past what feels good, what feels familiar, what feels safe. And not to prove anything, not to compete, and not to match someone else. Just enough to grow, just enough to get better, and just enough to see progress. And another honest question: are you calling it, quote unquote, listening to your body? Or are you avoiding discomfort because it scares you or it feels uncomfortable because it's hard. Both can feel similar, but they lead to very different results. And the tricky part is both choices can feel uncomfortable. Resting can feel uncomfortable when you're used to pushing, when you're used to doing a lot, when you're used to proving yourself. And pushing can feel uncomfortable when you're afraid of maybe failing, or when you're afraid of doing too much, when you're afraid of getting hurt, or maybe getting hurt again because you already experienced injury. So, discomfort alone is not a good indicator. That's why this isn't about intuition alone. It's about honesty. It's about learning and seeing or noticing your own patterns. Not just how something feels today, but what actually happens when you repeat the same thing, when you repeat the same choice over and over again. If respecting your limits helps you show up again tomorrow, that's discipline. And that's actually a good thing, right? But if staying within those limits keeps you exactly where you've been for a long time, then maybe what you need isn't more time and isn't more patience. Maybe what you need is the courage to stop hiding behind familiar explanations and your comfort zone and try something different, try something new. Because staying in explanation mode or in your comfort zone or making excuses, that doesn't make us better. It just keeps things familiar. That's what we know. And this applies whether you're just starting or whether you've been consistent for many years or maybe wondering why you feel stuck. Beginners often need permission to start smaller than their ambition. And we all have been there. We want to go fast and we want to go far. We want to do all at once. And I had to learn that the hard way. I pushed, I added, I ignored the signals, and I got hurt. People who are already consistent often needs permission to sometimes stop hiding behind the comfort. Both need discipline, just in a different form. Progress doesn't come from always pushing, and it doesn't come from always holding back. It comes from learning when to do which. And that brings me back to awareness. And yes, sometimes you will get it wrong. Sometimes you will make the wrong choice. You will push when you should have rested and rest when you should have pushed. But that doesn't mean you failed. It means you're learning. Starting where you are isn't about staying there. It's about building the awareness that tells you um, when to stay and when to move forward. And that awareness is what makes consistency sustainable for all of us. And I want to add one more thing here because this isn't something I've outgrown. I still catch myself comparing to people I admire, people I love, people with more experience, more time, different bodies, with the same, maybe lifestyle, the same schedule. And sometimes that comparison makes me question my own progress, my own pace, and my own capability. But over time, I learned, or I'm still learning this. Comparing myself to this person doesn't make me better. And for a long time, it didn't just, it was not just comparing myself. I wanted to match them. I wanted to train like this person. I wanted to handle what they handled, show up the way they showed up. Not just because I admired them, because I wanted to prove something. I wanted to prove that I'm the same kind of person, the same character, the same mentality, just as disciplined, just as serious. And the truth is, I am. But being the same kind of person doesn't mean having the same body. It doesn't mean you having the same experience. Doesn't mean you're having the same time. It doesn't mean you're having the same tools. It doesn't mean recovering the same way, handling the same load, tolerating the same stress, especially when it comes to running. Listening to my body felt like admitting weakness, and pushing through felt like I'm proving my character. But respecting my limits doesn't make me less disciplined. It makes my discipline sustainable, and it keeps me good, it keeps me safe, and it keeps me healthy. And I think this is where social media plays a huge role in people's lives because a lot of confusion around when to push, when to rest, when to do more, when to stop, that comes from what people see online. Big mileage, no days off, hard workouts, long runs, longer runs. And if you're new or looking for guidance, it's easy to think, oh, that's how I have to do it. But what you don't see is the context. You don't see the years of adaptation. You don't see their schedule, their injuries, their rest days. You don't see the recovery. You don't see the support system. And you definitely don't see how much of that content is created for attention, not education. Copying without context is not discipline. That's how people get hurt, especially beginners, especially people who actually care. Discipline isn't doing what looks impressive online. Discipline is doing what you can actually do, what you can repeat, what moves you forward, what keeps you healthy, what you can actually recover from, what makes you better over time. And here is the uncomfortable truth. You don't get better by explaining why something won't work. You get better by figuring out what will work and doing it consistently. Growth starts where avoidance ends. Starting where you are is not weakness. Staying there because it feels safer, more comfortable, that's a choice. But the good thing is, choices can change. You can change. You can make different choices every single day. And you can take what resonates and maybe leave what doesn't. And before I stop, one quick little thing: if you are a runner or training as an athlete and you're looking for something more running specific, go to your platform and look it up. Not Another Running Podcast. That's a podcast. It's fully focused on running, training principles, structure, mindset, and a lot of practical tools you can actually use. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. I will put the link in the show notes, and if you want to check it out, do it. Keep moving, keep working. I will talk to you soon.